Folks, welcome back to the Cam Rogers Show. We have Adam White on the line right now, CEO of Front Office Sports. Adam, thanks for taking the time, man. I assume you're a very happy guy after that Miami win over the weekend, huh?
Cam, thanks for having me. And yeah, it was good. It was a little heartthrobby. I was actually at work and kind of following on Twitter, and to see the live updates and people go nuts. It's funny because Twitter even beat some of the stuff I was listening to on the radio and even the TV. So I was like watching it on Twitter, watching it on TV, listening to it on the radio, and trying to take it all in. It was good. Hey, 5-0, I'll take it. You can't beat it.
You certainly cannot. In Miami, watch out for them against Clemson in the ACC championship game here. Adam, of course, you are the CEO of Front Office Sports. You founded the company back in 2014 when you were still in college. Let me ask you about what this company is all about.
Yeah, of course. So when I was in college, I was studying sports administration like many of the other people who work in the sports industry. And while I was at University of Miami, I was talking to my professors, and I had spoken with them about opportunities to get my name out there, start kind of generating some conversation to make sure that by the time I graduated, I had a job just like anyone else. And so one of the projects we had was to take informational interviews and to go out and do those with professionals in the industry, whoever they may be, athletic directors, social media managers, whatever it may be. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to do these informational interviews, why don't I just publish them? And so I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I put together a website, spent $40 on the logo that we have currently, and was able to do about 110 informational interviews in the first year. And we're able to really publish those out and push them out via social. And so that's how it all started. It was basically a way for me to get a job. And then as it kind of pushed forward and more people started getting on board and looking at the platform and seeing what we're doing, we kind of transitioned into more of the opportunity to really cover the business side of the industry and cover the X's and O's of what go on in the boardroom, hence the name Front Office Sports. There's a lot of information in that a lot of people don't know about what's going on in the boardroom. And so to be able to deliver that to them in an engaging and unique way via social, via our digital platforms, and do it in a way that, there's some industry publications, but our publication, we feel like, kind of bridges the gap between the regular fan and the people who are working in the industry to do it, in a very seamless way. So, long story short, it started out by doing informational interviews, and here we are now, 3.5 years later, working with the college football playoff on a content partnership and doing some really cool stuff going forward. So it's been a heck of a ride, but I definitely would have never thought it would got to this point, that's for sure.
And, of course, that college football partnership is really something that's sticking out to me. I'll ask you about that in a matter of moments here, but I do want to ask you about just the content you produce in general. Seems as though you and, of course, your fellow employees really take pride in the content you produce. What kind of stuff do you put out there on Front Row Sports? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
it's okay. It happens all the time. We get front row, front office, no worries.
There it is.
So yeah, the content is really being able to offer that insight and behind the scenes into the industry, right? So we take pride on the access that we've been given and the candor that people will share with us, right? So, some of the stuff that we have is something that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else just because of the relationships we've built. And I think that's a key thing for anyone watching who happens to be building a business or who happens to be working on their own thing is really building and cultivating those relationships and finding ways to do that from the ground level up. You're not going to get anywhere without having those relationships. And so to be able to do that from day one and keep them together will allow you to really see the growth in the years 2, 3, and 4 down the line. And so, like I had mentioned before, again, we're really covering the X's and O's of what happens in the business side, especially on the social media side, the digital media side. Recently we ran a post on how the Cardinals are monetizing their social feed on Instagram by, working with Nike to feature players' cleats in a really simple activation. So yeah, it really runs the gamut from ticket sales. We talked to a company called ZipWhip, and they do landline ticket sales, and so they partnered with Florida State, and Florida State has seen a huge return on that. And so there's a bunch of different things we cover, but it really focuses mostly on giving fans and people who may not have the access to all the resources that we do the opportunity to see inside that boardroom, see what these people are doing, seeing what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. A lot of the content we produce is features on people who are working in the industry, and finding a way to highlight their stories. There's a lot of outlets that talk about players all the time, but the people who work in the sports industry have a lot of cool stories and have a lot of cool background that can be highlighted as well.
Hey, and that's why you're the CEO and I'm the goofy on-air personality. You know companies, and I clearly am just lost. But let me ask you, though, this college football partnership, really cool thing that I was reading about here, and I'm sure something that you really take pride in. Talk a little bit about what this connection means going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a really big deal. Obviously, 3.5 years in to be partnered with one of the biggest names in sports, and something that we think is still really taking off. And there's a lot of debate around the college football playoff, as there is around any type of sports. And so for us, being able to work with them on that is going to be huge. And what we're going to be doing is, again, still giving what we've been doing on our site, and being able to give those behind the scenes look into college football playoff and show it's more than just a ranking system, right? There's a lot of people that go into the college football playoff. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So going behind the scenes again and working to showcase what the people in the college football playoff are doing, the different activations and sponsorships around the college football playoff. We're going to be on the ground for the entire week leading up to the College Football Playoff National Championship in Atlanta, and so being able to work with them and showcase their partners and everything that they're doing is a big opportunity for us, and is, I think, a big opportunity for them, right? A lot of people get mad at the College Football Playoff, but they really don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes to make this stuff come to life. And for us to be able to do that, it kind of puts a little bit of a personality behind what the rankings really are, and we think that is going to be a huge thing, and we think that they agree with us and kind of put it together and went from there, and here we are.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I can't imagine the amount of cool people you've had the opportunity to interact with. You mentioned informational interviews, etc. So I want to ask you, throw some names at me here, Adam. Who are some people that you've talked to that really stick out?
Yeah, shoot, there's been a lot. Like I said, I did 110 in the first year alone, and I've done a bunch since then. A lot of Adidas execs when they were on the come up. We did some really cool stuff on The Athletic before The Athletic was really, a big name in the sports media cycle. So being able to talk to Adam Hansman and get his idea behind really localizing and basically focusing on making people just pay for sports content, which is a lot of what people are paying for newspapers anyways for. And so, there's so many, it's hard to really put a name on one, but, I've had David Cohen, who's the general counsel for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, walk us through what a day in the life of his looks like. And it's just those type of things that you really remember. And a lot of these people have come on and stayed as mentors or just really good friends for me. So, there's a lot of cool people, but you just, like I said, you just got to go out and do it. And I just started reaching out, and as soon as we started doing it, it kind of took off. And so, yeah, I mean, it's wild. No one, luckily, involved in any scandals or anything like that, so we've kind of kept it clear there. But it's been good, man.
Hey, scandal-free is always good, right? Now, of course, on your website.
Scandal-free is always good.
And I was reading a really interesting article. We'll throw up the tweet here for the people watching at home. The headline reads, as sponsorship spend increases, properties have to be ready. And I really thought this was really a thought-provoking article, because sponsorship in sports media and sports in general is a very interesting world. And I want to ask you, what exactly does that mean? As sponsorships increase, properties have to be ready?
Yeah, I mean, so right now, you're looking at all this increased spend. I think the article mentioned $62 billion by 2020 or something like that on sponsorship spend. And as a lot of these agencies and these marketers and everything look to go experiential, many of these people want tangible live events. These properties are going to have to be ready for that, right? So whether it's, you see the Atlanta Braves new stadium, they have a really cool thing with Mizuno where you can rent a glove. Offering these opportunities for these brands to get in front of fans in a tangible and experiential way is going to be huge. And then also finding ways to target fans effectively, right? Finding ways to use the data you have on fans to deliver, targeted advertising, very similar in the ways that you see online and on websites where, you go to Amazon and you buy something on Amazon, next thing you know, you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram, and all the stuff that's on your feed in terms of sponsored content is about this thing you just bought or the thing you were looking at. So as like I said, when the sponsorships continue to spend, you're going to have to find more and more reasons and more opportunities to put tangible content in front of these fans, as well as tailored content, because as millennials and as people who are younger, we can see through the BS pretty easy, right? And so it's a big importance thing, and as the numbers get bigger, the pie also gets smaller too, because people are spending in areas that are being effective, and if you're not being effective, people aren't going to spend in your place. So that was the whole thing behind it, and Daniel, who wrote it, did a really good job of kind of breaking it all down. And I think it's important for people to note that it's an ever-evolving industry, and so especially with digital media, there's finding ways to, again, provide tangible ROI for sponsors on that kind of platform is huge. And so that's why we said properties have to evolve, because it's not just only on, you can't just slap a banner ad up in your stadium now and expect to get as much ROI, or have the advertisers be happy with that. They want that full gamut. They want the TV package, the social media package, the in-stadium package. And so, because of that, like we said, everything has to evolve.
Now, speaking of evolving here, Adam, of course, you guys do a lot of content in terms of esports and how that is really a changing part of the media, sports industry, if you will. I want to ask you about esports. How do you feel it's developing, and how do you feel it's going to become more profitable, if you will?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert on the area, but I kind of will offer my thoughts here. So I think it's exploding, and I think also the fact is there's a lot going on, and a lot of people who are kind of like rushing to finding out how to monetize it. I think a lot of it's going to come down to structure. For the most part, at least from what I've heard from people inside the industry and people who work in esports, is that there's a lot of leagues all over the place, but there's really no like structure. You have the NFL, and you have the tiers, and you have college football, you have MLB, and you have the minor leagues, right? So there's a lot of structure in professional sports, but when it comes down to esports, there's not a ton of structure in terms of where everyone's at. So I think once you get that structure in place, you'll be in a good spot. And just I think everyone kind of needs to have a little patience with esports. Like, it's blowing up right now, but to get all these things worked out, people need to, give it maybe a year. It came mainstream, and I think that's the biggest thing is there's some needs of patience there, right? So if the sponsors have some patience, and if the brands have some patience, and the esports teams have some patience to go out and be like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is, the 2, 3, 4 year, 5 year plan, instead of like, holy cow, we just got a bunch of money, now we have to spend it and figure out what we're doing on the fly, I think will be huge. But, when you think about it, and this is kind of the perfect story, is I was a college roommate with someone my freshman year, and the kid played League of Legends till 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, and did it again the next day. And so, and it's funny because, like, as someone who wasn't very interested in video games growing up or anything like that, you find yourself, and I was like, this was kind of before all the esports blew up, and I was like, man, I wish I would have known, because I was literally just sitting there watching this kid play video games. And if you think about it, back to how many times we would sit in our living rooms and play Madden or play, NBA 2K with our friends, and there's only 2 people playing, but everyone else is watching. And so I think like this whole, people watching video games and people getting paid is like, it's kind of overblown in terms of like them not being athletes, or it's being weird, because it's not weird. It's just everyone's been doing it, but they've been doing it in the scope of their house, in their rooms with their buddies for years, and not, on a mainstream on TV. And you look at these things and they pack these arenas. I think they're building esports specific arenas in some places. So I really think it's on the come up. And what's nice about esports is that really anyone can play it, right? So there's no physical limitations for the most part when it comes to, like, I'm never going to be able probably to play NBA basketball because I'm 5'10", can't jump, and I'm not a very good ball handler. But I sure as heck can play 2K, NBA 2K, and possibly make money if I wanted to. So I think it's that accessibility of esports and the opportunity to kind of connect people in different ways and allow them to play their favorite sport and make money on it, but just do it in a different way.
Oh, while esports finds its way, Adam, of course, the NBA is here in terms of social media marketing. I ran into a graphic. I think Front Office Sports retweeted it. Here it is. We'll show it to the folks at home. The NBA is leading the way in terms of social media marketing right now. Adam, I'll read off the little caption. Sports biz execs say, NBA far and away the best league when it comes to social media marketing. There's NBA at 42%, then the MLB at 19%, and then you have to go to NASCAR, number 8, NFL 7. Heck, the PGA Tour is at 1% here. Adam, I want to ask you, why is that? What is the NBA doing so well that everybody else isn't?
I wouldn't even say it's just the NBA as a league, but I would say the players as a whole. I think the fact that the players have become so accessible on social media, you look to someone like LeBron James, who's tweeting about current events, who's sharing his thoughts. I just think that the fact is that the NBA as a whole is kind of propelled their players to do this, to be a voice and to empower their players. And because of that, their players have lived up to it. Richard Jefferson, when he was on the Cavaliers, his Snapchat was like a must follow for fans. The opportunity that these platforms are giving to give these athletes a way to showcase their lives beyond just what they see, what fans see on the court, I think is a huge thing. And I think the NBA players have done such a good job of relishing that platform and being able to engage with their fans. You see it all the time. And you see the fact that it's things like Bleacher Report and House of Highlights on Instagram being able to feature these NBA highlights is huge. Bleacher Report and Turner are owned by the same people. So being able to cross-pollinate those NBA highlights on Bleacher Report, which is obviously a massive platform, is just one of the things that have played together. So the NBA, the teams are really good at social media. They're really good strategy-wise and graphically-wise and video-wise. And then the players themselves have really taken to being able to engage with fans and are doing it on the regular, or just at least sharing their thoughts. Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. I mean, these are the sport's biggest stars, and they're on the platforms that the fans can directly engage with them. And I think that's the biggest winning point for the NBA.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. When I see individual tweets on Bleacher Report, usually they're from NBA players, so you're absolutely right there. Adam White, ladies and gentlemen, CEO of Front Office Sports. Check them out, frontofficesports.org. Adam, you've got a great thing going here, man. Keep it up, and let's chat again soon, huh?
Thanks, Cam. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully get some value out of this, and I look forward to the next time.